rescue adventure, the loyal German Shepherd, unbreakable bonds, a hero's tale, partners in combat. Dawn light filtered through the blinds of retired Commander Jack Westfield's cabin. At 58, Jack's body bore the marks of service, bullet scars, knife wounds, and invisible PTSD injuries. None compared to the bond with his German Shepherd, Loki, who lay at the foot of his bed, amber eyes alert. "Morning, partner," Jack whispered, running weathered fingers through Loki's fur. The dog responded with a gentle nudge. Their communication transcended words, built through firefights in Baghdad, hostage situations in Beirut, and raids across 5 continents. Before retirement, they had been the International Counterterrorism Task Force's most decorated human canine team. Their last mission changed everything. A radical cell had planned to release sarin gas in Tokyo's busiest subway station. Jack and Loki led the advance team. When Loki detected explosives seconds before detonation, Jack evacuated 17 civilians. The secondary device exploded as they shielded a mother and child, leaving both wounded. A month later, they retreated to Colorado's mountains, seeking solitude in a wilderness they now called home. Echoes of Tokyo. 3 years into retirement, Jack's Tokyo nightmares persisted. They always began with Loki's alert posture, then the devastating explosion. In dreams, Jack never reached Loki in time. Reality had been different. They survived together, scarred but unbroken. Their cabin nestled between pines became sanctuary. Riversend, the nearest town, lay 30 miles away via a winding road. After years of hypervigilance, both needed space to decompress. Jack's routine rarely varied. Morning coffee, a 3-mile hike with Loki, physical therapy for his shrapnel-damaged leg, and Loki's reconstructed hip. His ex-wife Maria called monthly from Phoenix, conversation strained. His daughter Elise, a Boston medical resident, sent emails he struggled to answer. What few knew was that before joining ICTF, Jack had pioneered an experimental program integrating service dogs into trauma recovery for veterans. The Cerberus protocol showed remarkable results until budget cuts and skepticism shut it down. That failure drove Jack from research into field operations. Unknown to all, Loki was a third-generation descendant from that original program, a connection Jack discovered only after they were paired. The coincidence seemed like fate bringing his work full circle. The collapse. Autumn painted Colorado's mountains in brilliant golds and crimsons. That morning's unseasonable warmth tempted Jack to extend their hike to the overlook. The trail began gently through aspen groves. 3 miles in, Jack paused, catching his breath. The first warning came as tingling in his left arm. Jack flexed his fingers, dismissing it as exertion. They continued, but the sensation intensified, spreading across his chest. "Just need a minute," Jack murmured, lowering himself onto a fallen log. Loki circled back, whining softly, nudging Jack's hand. With sudden clarity, Jack recognized what was happening. Classic stroke symptoms: facial numbness, left side weakness, slurred speech. His medical training cataloged each development as his ability to respond diminished. Loki transformed from disciplined service dog to increasingly agitated companion. He tugged at Jack's sleeve, then trotted down the trail before returning, intentions clear. "Loki," Jack commanded, focusing his remaining concentration. "Need help? Go get help." Would Loki understand? Their training never covered this scenario. Jack fumbled with the tactical collar, hands trembling. "Road. Find someone," he instructed, each word requiring monumental effort as his face began drooping. As consciousness slipped away, Jack's last thought was the cruel irony, surviving firefights worldwide only to fall on a peaceful mountain trail. His final image, Loki's intelligent eyes filled with determined comprehension. "Good boy," he whispered. "Find help." Then nothing. The desperate search. Loki stood over his fallen handler, pawing Jack's chest and whining with distress. When no response came, the shepherd's specialized training asserted itself. He barked 3 times, the universal canine distress signal, but the trails remained empty. Dark clouds gathered, the storm approaching rapidly. The German shepherd faced an impossible choice: protect his vulnerable handler or seek help. Every instinct urged him to stay, but something deeper compelled action. Loki nuzzled Jack's hand once more, then began running down the mountain trail, powerful stride covering ground despite his arthritic hip. He reached the main junction quickly, choosing the direct path to the access road as fat raindrops began falling. Thunder rumbled, normally terrifying the combat-experienced dog, but today he pushed through with single-minded determination. By the road, the storm intensified. For 20 minutes, Loki barked at passing vehicles, but they continued, unwilling to stop for what appeared to be a stray and threatening weather. With military precision, he centered himself in the road, directly blocking any approaching vehicle. The first truck swerved around him, horn blaring. The second did likewise. But Loki held position, rain-soaked body trembling. When the Riverside County ambulance appeared around the bend, Loki planted his feet firmly in the center. Inside, paramedic Sarah Collins gripped the dashboard as Marcus Johnson slammed the brakes. That's a service dog, Sarah realized, recognizing the specialized harness. He's intentionally blocking us. When she exited, Loki barked once sharply, then moved aside, looking back with unmistakable expectation. When Sarah approached, he advanced a few feet, then stopped, looking back again. He wants us to follow him, Sarah called to Marcus. What they discovered in the next 11 minutes would challenge everything the medical community understood about the bond between humans and animals. Against protocol, the ambulance careened into Riverside Memorial's emergency bay, sirens blaring. Sarah leaped out, shouting to the waiting trauma team. Male, late 50s, unresponsive, presenting with left-sided facial drooping and hemiparesis. BP 185/105, pulse irregular. Dr. Eliza Chun moved alongside the gurney as Jack was transferred inside. How long has he been down? Unknown, Marcus replied. Found him off-trail about 4 miles up Sentinel Ridge. If it wasn't for the dog. A commotion erupted at the entrance. Through the automatic doors burst Loki, drenched and mud-covered, limping but determined to follow Jack. The shepherd dodged security's attempts to catch him, darting toward the trauma bay. That dog, Marcus pointed, found the victim, led us to him, then followed the ambulance. Hospital policy. No animals. Security guard Frank insisted, reaching for Loki's collar. Wait. Sarah intervened. This isn't just any dog. He saved this man's life. She examined the tags. International Counterterrorism Task Force. This is a police dog. Head nurse Maria Diaz joined them. After examining Loki's specialized hardware and distinctive scars, she made a quick decision. Frank, give me a blanket for the ambulance bay. The dog can wait under the awning. The CT scan confirmed a severe ischemic stroke. As they administered treatment, Jack briefly regained consciousness. Loki, he slurred, grabbing Dr. Chen's sleeve. Where's Loki? Your dog is safe, she assured him, though hospital policy remained firm. Loki could not come inside. Outside, the storm intensified. Maria arranged a makeshift shelter, but the loyal shepherd refused comfort, sitting rigidly facing the emergency doors, ignoring food and shivering in the rain. By morning, Loki had become a social media sensation. Inside, Jack's condition stabilized but remained critical. During transfer to intensive care, his monitors registered an immediate change in heart rate when Loki's distant bark penetrated the hospital walls. Interesting, Dr. Chen noted, watching the rhythm normalize as they moved deeper inside. Hidden past. Administrator Richard Graves confronted Maria at the nurse's station. This dog situation needs to end. Call animal control. Their standoff was interrupted by the arrival of a woman in her early 30s. I'm Dr. Elise Westfield, Jack Westfield's daughter. Upon learning about Loki, Elise displayed not surprise, but recognition. Of course Loki found help. Their connection isn't just emotional. It's part of the Cerberus protocol. Before joining counterterrorism, my father was a neurological researcher. The Cerberus protocol was his creation, using specially trained canines to regulate neurological responses in trauma patients. Dad's research showed that the bond between handler and dog created unique neurochemical responses that accelerated healing. As tensions mounted, Dr. Samuel Rivera, the hospital's oldest board member and former military physician, recognized Jack's name and intervened. Jack Westfield's work wasn't just experimental, it was revolutionary. I was part of the initial review board before the military redirected funding. That dog isn't just a pet, Richard. He's medically significant to this patient's recovery. Meanwhile, Jack's condition deteriorated dramatically. His blood pressure spiked, and brain scans showed increasing inflammation, his stress response actively compromising recovery. This matches the pattern documented in the Cerberus research, Dr. Rivera explained. When handlers were separated from their dogs during recovery, their neuroinflammatory responses accelerated dramatically. Elise made a decision. I'm bringing Loki in, protocol or no protocol. Reunion and revelation. A code blue alarm suddenly blared from Jack's room. Medical personnel rushed to respond, finding him in full cardiac arrest. For 16 agonizing minutes, they fought to restore his heartbeat. When they finally stabilized him, Dr. Chen looked up to find Graves standing in the doorway, face ashen. "This man nearly died just now," she said evenly. "Not from his stroke, from the stress exacerbating his condition. I am formally requesting emergency compassionate exception to hospital policy." Finally, Graves gave a slight nod. 24-hour trial. Supervised at all times. Within 30 minutes, Loki was examined, cleaned, and escorted to Jack's room. The German Shepherd approached the bed with remarkable gentleness. The room fell silent as he positioned himself beside the bed, resting his head near Jack's motionless hand. On the monitor above, Jack's heart rate steadied into a normal rhythm. His oxygen saturation climbed from 92% to 97%. "The bond between them is extraordinary," Dr. Rivera explained. "Neurobiologically speaking, they're functioning as interconnected systems." For the next hour, they observed the remarkable transformation. Jack's vital signs improved steadily, and by early evening, he began showing consciousness. His first clear word, "Loki." A weak smile formed as he managed to lift his hand just enough to touch Loki's fur. "You found help," he whispered. By afternoon, local media had picked up the story. Not everyone was pleased, however. Dr. Harold Mercer, head of immunology, arrived with printed articles on animal-transmitted infections. "This animal's presence undermines decades of evidence-based infection control protocols," he argued. The confrontation might have escalated had elderly patient Martha Sullivan not chosen that moment to appear. "Excuse me," she interrupted. "I'm the one with severe dog allergies, and I've come to meet this remarkable animal. Mrs. Sullivan, with your condition, you should be nowhere near this dog. At my age, young man, I decide what risks are worth taking." She shuffled past him into Jack's room. "So this is the famous Loki. May I pet him?" Martha extended a wrinkled hand toward Loki, who sniffed it politely before allowing her to stroke his head. "My Harold would have loved him. His service dog, Captain, saved him after Vietnam. You're a lucky man, Commander. Some connections transcend our understanding." That evening, Jack caught Elise's hand before she could leave. "Thank you for fighting for him. For understanding." Elise hesitated at the door. "Dad, I found your research files last year. I've been continuing your work at Boston Medical. We're in phase 2 clinical trials. 17 stroke patients paired with specially trained service dogs." For the first time since his collapse, Jack smiled fully. "It wasn't for nothing then," he whispered, as Loki pressed closer against his side. Legacy. 1 month later, Riverson Memorial Hospital's main auditorium was filled beyond capacity as Administrator Graves addressed the assembly. "Our agenda contains one item: the formal adoption of the revised Cerberus Protocol for Animal-Assisted Neurological Therapy." The auditorium doors opened to reveal Jack walking slowly but steadily with a cane. Beside him moved Loki, alert and protective. The room burst into spontaneous applause. 15 years ago, Jack began. "I abandoned medical research when bureaucracy and skepticism derailed what I knew to be true, that the bond between humans and animals contains healing properties we've only begun to understand. I believed then, as I do now, that medicine encompasses more than procedures and pharmaceuticals. True healing engages the entire person, body, mind, and spirit." Elise announced the establishment of the Westfield Institute for Interspecies Therapeutic Research, jointly funded by Boston Medical and Riverson Memorial. After extensive discussion, the vote was unanimous. The revised Cerberus Protocol was officially adopted. A week later, Riverson Memorial discharged Jack himself, with Loki officially certified as his neurological therapy companion. The hospital corridor was lined with staff members applauding as man and dog walked out together. "Where to, Dad?" Elise asked, opening the car door. "The university," Jack decided. "Loki and I have a lecture to give. Then Boston Medical next week to help train their first therapy dog cohort." At a stoplight, Jack reached over to scratch behind Loki's ears. "You know, when Loki blocked that ambulance, he wasn't just trying to save me." "What do you mean?" Elise asked. "He was saving all of us. Me from death, you from regret, the hospital from forgetting its purpose, even Graves from his rigid thinking." "And what about Loki? What did he get from all this?" Jack smiled, resting his hand on the shepherd's graying muzzle. "The one thing all living beings truly need: purpose. The certainty that his existence matters." Trials by fire. 6 months later, the grand lecture hall at Boston Medical Center hummed with anticipation. Jack stood backstage, hand resting on Loki's head, acutely aware that representatives from the NIH, AMA, and 12 major teaching hospitals sat in the audience, skeptical gatekeepers to widespread adoption. Colleen Jenkins, their most challenging case, had suffered a catastrophic stroke, leaving her locked in, cognitively intact, but unable to communicate beyond eye movements. Dakota, their most advanced therapy dog, had been training specifically for her case. When the demonstration began, the audience watched in stunned silence as Dakota approached Colleen's wheelchair. Instead of maintaining professional distance, the shepherd pressed her body against Colleen's legs, resting her head directly on the woman's lap. Dr. Torres attached monitoring equipment to track Colleen's neurological responses. The data flowed onto the projection screen, brain activity patterns changing in real time. "Mrs. Jenkins, if you can understand me, blink twice," Jack instructed. 2 deliberate blinks. "Try to move your right index finger while Dakota maintains contact." After a full minute, Colleen's finger twitched, so slight it would have been missed without the monitoring equipment. "Again, if you can." This time, the movement was visible to the naked eye. Tears streamed down Colleen's face. Tears of someone experiencing movement after months of imprisonment in her own body. By session's end, Colleen had managed small but unmistakable movements in 3 fingers and a slight nod of her head. Her husband, watching from the front row, broke down completely. Jack glanced down at Loki, then across to Dakota. They had just witnessed nothing short of a miracle, not bestowed from above, but emerging from the profound connection between species that modern medicine had forgotten how to see. Full circle, cherry blossoms fell like snow across Tokyo's Ueno Park. 3 years had passed, and the Westfield Institute now operated satellite programs in 17 countries. Jack watched as Loki, showing distinct signs of age, surveyed their surroundings with the same focused intensity. "Hard to believe we're back here," Jack murmured. They had avoided Tokyo since the bombing. But when the Japanese Health Ministry requested Jack personally oversee their Cerberus protocol adaptation, Elise insisted it was time to face the past. "Commander Westfield?" A young woman in her early 20s approached, her eyes shining with emotion. "My name is Sakura Tanaka. 11 years ago, you and your dog saved my mother and me from the Shibuya station bombing." Jack's breath caught. "You were the little girl. You can't have been more than 10. Sakura nodded, tears forming. "I am studying veterinary medicine now because of what happened that day. Because of him." Later, Dr. Hamada presented Jack with 2 medals, one for him, one for Loki. "The Emperor has authorized these commendations for your actions. In our culture, we understand that loyalty and courage are not limited to humans." That night in his hotel room, Jack called Elise and shared their encounter with Sakura. "Full circle," she observed quietly. "Yes." Jack glanced at Loki, now asleep on the bed. "Elise, I've been thinking about what happens when the handler's time comes." Silence stretched between them. Loki was aging, and despite the best care, canine lifespans remained short. Their lives are shorter than ours. But what if the bond doesn't have to end when one partner does? What if the neurological connection we've documented could be extended? "You're talking about training successor dogs to carry forward the established bond," Elise realized. "Using scent markers, shared environments, maybe even DNA sequencing." As they discussed the possibilities, Jack felt a weight lifting, not grief of anticipated loss, but hope of continued purpose. He and Loki had traveled from battlefields to hospital wards, from trauma to the frontiers of medical science. Whatever time they had left would be spent ensuring their path wouldn't end with them. Jack carefully attached the medal to Loki's harness. "We did good, partner," he whispered, feeling the rise and fall of Loki's breathing, the comfort that had sustained him through countless dark nights. In that quiet room, an old warrior and his faithful companion rested, their shared journey having transformed not just each other, but the very understanding of healing itself. Their bond, forged in combat, tested by trauma, and offered as a gift to others, would endure long after both had completed their final missions. For some connections transcend time, transcend even life and death. They become part of something greater, a legacy of healing that, once awakened, can never truly be lost. In our hurried modern world, we often overlook life's most profound healers, the 4-legged companions who ask nothing but offer everything. Veterans with PTSD, children with autism, elderly patients slipping into isolation. Across America, service animals bridge gaps where human medicine falters. A German shepherd's steady gaze sees past the wheelchair to the person within. A therapy dog's gentle presence lowers blood pressure more effectively than pills, without side effects or prescriptions. Yet our institutions, sterile, liability-conscious, protocol-driven, frequently bar these healing partnerships at the very moments they're needed most. The science confirms what our hearts already know, that something extraordinary happens in that space between human suffering and canine compassion. Brain chemistry changes. Stress hormones plummet. Neurons forge new pathways. But beyond the measurable metrics lies something deeper, something sacred, the unspoken understanding that transcends species. When a service dog places its head on a trembling hand, the message is clear: you are not alone in this battle. In that silent promise, healing begins. Perhaps our healthcare system, with all its technological marvels, could learn its most important lesson from the ancient wisdom carried in a dog's unwavering loyalty. Sometimes, the most powerful medicine isn't something you take, it's something you feel. Thank you for watching this heartfelt story. We hope it touched your heart and left you with something meaningful to reflect on. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, leave a comment to share your thoughts, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss more inspiring stories like this. Your support means the world to us. See you in the next video.